right, good morning, everybody. It will not shock you that these sessions always run long, and then Nate and Casey are like tapping their foot at the door, like, you'll get out, I have to teach. So try and get rolling like on time this week. So happy to see you. Glad you chose to come. People on live stream, that's second. You're my favorites. They're my second favorites. So these 3 mornings, gonna share a bunch of like thoughts, observations, ideas, recommendations about finding jobs, getting jobs, and a little bit about succeeding in jobs. I presume if you're here, you'd like to get a job. If I had the like stack of jobs here, like jobs buffet, you all could walk past and just pick one up and put it in your pocket. That'd be kind of sweet, but honestly, I wouldn't care for it very much because you wouldn't value it as highly. I think there's value in the struggle of the job hunt, and it's one of the parts I worry about a little bit as like turning becomes more established. We see students shift focus a bit of like, what is the proof of value? Having graduation and certificates and all that kind of stuff starts to make it feel like graduation is itself valuable, and it's to me a nice to have, not a need to have. Like, it's not, in graduating you haven't really like done the thing. You took some steps along the way, but the real thing is like getting a job, being successful in the job, being happy in the job. So for those of you who have graduated, congratulations, you're like 3/4 of the way there. Those of you who have not graduated, you're like halfway there. Sorry for that bad news. And I would appreciate if you take notes. By the way, as I always do, it drives me a little bit crazy whether we're in a session like this or if we have like a one-on-one conversation and somebody's like, I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, here's what you should do. They're like, I'll totally do all those things. No, you won't. Like, you'll definitely forget about them and intend to do them. It's nice, but actually do them, you should write them down. So today we're gonna talk about finding the job, which is a little different than getting the job. And so my title is Your Job is Not Advertised. Based and oh, it's the fan. Someone's like, there's wind in the mic. Yeah. Good news, we're at the beach location today. No, it's just the fan. So, just to kind of like level set on it, and it's not to make you feel bad or anything, but it's just to clarify. None of y'all have worked as professional software developers, right? Cool. No one's ever gotten a job as a software developer. So like, how much you know and your opinions about how to get a job as a software developer, very limited. Like, maybe you've talked to a couple people, that's cute. And I have gone through this process with now like 450 people. And so it's a thing I've done over and over and over and over, and I can tell you very clearly what are the differences between the people who are successful and the people who struggle. You can come right down, get a front row seat. And I'll tell you, it's almost never a surprise. It is exceptionally rare that somebody gets to a job hunt that takes like 90 days, 120 days, and we're like, what, really? You know, I can tell you there's one alum in that status right now, out of like 40 job hunters. The folks who take longer in a job hunt, it's always expected, like, we saw it coming. Generally, the way we see it coming is because they're not really willing to do what it takes to be successful. And what that looks like is a lot of like whining about like, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't need to do this, blah, 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 or not following through on things that they say they're going to do. the folks who are successful, you know, if you look at the data and stats and stuff, I'm like encouraged about the way jobs are trending right now. I would say a year ago this time, I was frustrated with jobs, and I was frustrated with the way we were like supporting or not supporting jobs, and honestly frustrated with like some of how our staffing like was allocated and spent and so forth. And now I feel like things are in a pretty good spot. I think there's also new potential. I'm like cautiously very optimistic about the work that Courtney and Ryan, who you probably have not met, have been working on with some really big employers and like opening different kinds of jobs than we've seen before. All that being said, the typical job hunt to me is like 45 days. What we're seeing is like the median job hunt. And if you were to kind of graph how long it takes someone to get a job, there's like this pre-graduation part, and then there's a 45-day, there's this, and there's very long tail. And it's pretty consistent that there are like 1 to 2 people per cohort that go past this 120 days. And I really fucking hate this and would appreciate if you would choose not to be these people. And you would say, why would I choose that? I don't fucking know, but I can tell you that they choose it. Because the folks who are out in this spot, it's like, did you do this thing? No. Did you do this thing? Yeah, I did it. Show it to me. Okay, I didn't do it. Like, fucking hey, man, like, just do the things we told you to do, and then you wouldn't be, because you get poor, you get depressed, you get isolated, right? Like, how does it feel to be this person? You've seen all your friends who, back here, you all were like, we're best friends forever, we'll always stay in touch. And then after a while, you're like, everyone else has jobs, and that's not fun to hang out with them anymore, because now they all have paychecks and they're happy, and I'm like here in my friend's basement, and like, it sucks, right? And so this is like, I hope we can all agree, a sad, unfortunate, like shitty place to be. And I swear that if you do the things I tell you to do, you will not be here. It is never, ever the case that the person who does what we tell them to do ends up here. They typically don't even end up here. And that's what you'll see when you talk to alums with job hunt things. Nobody will say it was easy, but there will be people who are like, yeah, I like did some stuff, I did some work, I had these spreadsheets and blah, 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 and then I got a job. It was like pretty cool, you should do it. And then there are people who are like, Turing doesn't help me, it's impossible to get a job, the market's saturated, blah, blah, blah. You'll notice the person who says all those things, they don't have the spreadsheets, they don't have the notes, it's like, oh, tell me what you're doing. I've been scrolling on the internet, you know? It's like, you're gonna end up, like, you make the decisions of which side of this line you wanna be on. And this is 45 days. I would like to see this hump move this way, kind of my ideal. I've said at times that my ideal is 0 days, but that's not exactly true. I think of it kind of like unemployment, like in, I mean, it is unemployment, but if you look at economics, like market economics and stuff, there's an ideal unemployment around like 5 to 6% for like market fluidity, and somewhat similarly, I think we have like an ideal job hunt range, and I would like it to approach 0. And I'd like that to be about 20 days. So what is the difference between folks on this half and folks on this half? I believe that it comes down to 3 things that if you haven't already heard someone say this, you're gonna hear more and more people say it. 3 pieces. Discipline, hustle, and skill. And what these mean, the easiest one is skill. do you know what you're doing? If you know what you're doing in programming, if you graduated, you're somewhere between like a 6 and a 10 on programming, I would say. And it's probably good enough. There's a unfortunate reality for a lot of these people. If you were to graph their programming skill over time, it probably started at 0. They probably don't have any relevant experience or anything that's going to help them that way. It came a little bit like this over the early weeks, and then made this big growth through like mod 1, mod 2, started to maybe plateau a little bit, but like keep growing. And they hit this graduation. And nobody plans to be out 4 months without a job. And what this person does is like kind of sit in a bit of discomfort and non-results. And what you see is actually a pretty significant regression. And the real danger there is the person who gets out this far, they can't afford to fuck up an interview. The person who's over here, like day 10, if you blow an interview, who cares? You learned something, great, awesome. Day 120, if you blow an interview, it's like, fuck. Now we got maybe go another 120 days to get a second one? That would be real shitty. And what you see is people let their skills atrophy or rust or kind of however you want to look at it. That's dumb. You didn't go through this fight to like then let it go down. So choose not to do that. The easiest way to choose not to do that is to actually do programming. And you would be surprised, you're like, I love programming. You're still new to the industry. You're like, programming's so great, why would I stop? Programming sucks, okay? But for now, you're still like into it, that's cool. The danger is what happens like right around graduation. If you're in Mod 4 right now, you've probably told yourself, and your cohort has told itself a bunch of stories of like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Everything's so difficult. How can we I could barely survive to get to the end. Like dumping garbage cans is difficult. Typing on computers is not fucking difficult. So shut up and do your work. Then what happens is you get to graduation and maybe mom and dad come and you're like, I did it! Now I get to like eat pizza and play video games, or maybe you're cool and you go hiking or ride your stand-up paddleboard or whatever. And it's a real good way to burn this period of time right here. Because if you talk to alums, it's either them or people they know. You get to like this point, it's been a week and a half since graduation, haven't done shit. And you know what, like not doing shit for a week and a half, hypothetically you think to yourself like, I'm gonna feel good, I'm gonna be rested, pizza, I've done my exercise, whatever it is. And the reality is that like, you spend that time, instead of enjoying things or like getting rested up, you build up this anxiety. And now your anxiety has come up even higher. There are maybe 1 or 2 people got jobs and interviews in that time, and what you get into or can get into is this trap, which is like, if I try and I fail, then I know it was me. But if I don't try and I don't fail, then it's like, who knows? Maybe I could have done better. Or like, it probably would have worked out well. And when folks take like 2 weeks of rest time, that's a very cute idea. And then what that leads to is like another 2 weeks of kind of half-assed time, and another 2 weeks of like, oh, now I'm the dumb one who's starting to get out here, and then another 2 weeks, and then it's like, oh, everything went wrong. How did it all go wrong? And the answer is real easy. It was right at the beginning. In my opinion, when you graduate, you should take a 3-day weekend. Congratulations, Tuesday of intermission week, back to fucking work, because you don't have a job. And like, if you have a job, congratulations, do whatever the fuck you want. You're not my problem anymore. But if you don't have a job, it's like some pretty extreme level of like self-sabotage / privilege to be like, I'm gonna go camping for like a week. And it's like really cool. You know, it's a good time for that after you get a job. Like, you might be surprised that a lot of jobs don't care I would say 4 out of 5 jobs don't care about your start date that much. And so if you get a job and then they're like, hey, start September 1, and you're like, could we do September 15? They'll be like, sure, whatever. And then go camping for 2 weeks and see your friends and hang out with your sister or whatever you have to do. Great, after you have the job. No anxiety, you're full of excitement, you actually have a projection of where this bank account is gonna go and all these things. Doing it before you have a job, it's not gonna be that fun because you're gonna be fucking worried the whole time. And then you've made those worries come true. So don't do that, first mistake. Second mistake that people make in this phase, it's kind of, it's not too late to turn around, but it's harder to turn around, is that they're overly selective. In the scale of jobs on this earth, we call this a 0 and a 10. Programming jobs are clustered from about here to here. The worst programming jobs are jobs that most everyone else on earth would bend over backwards, do backflips, possibly kill someone to get, right? And there is a part of you that has this like warped sense of like tastes and preferences of like, oh, that's not exactly what I want to do. I want to do this thing, I want to do that thing. Interesting. Good to know what some of those things are. And I would tuck that right in your back pocket and like hold on to it for later, personally. The most important thing for you is to not be this person. Getting a job in here that's a 9.2 instead of a 9.4 out here, it's better to get that 9.2. Whether you if you end up in a small company, you're gonna learn a lot about like chaos and shifting priorities and running out of money and oh shit, I might have to get another job in 6 months. Cool, those are really good lessons to learn. If you end up in an enormous company, a 5,000 person dev team, you're gonna learn about like what it's like to have processes and systems and HR and reasonable compensation packages and all these kinds of things and like work-life balance. And that's cool. And you'll say to yourself, one day I want to go do the startup thing. And your friend that took the startup job will be like, one day I'd like a real job, right? All of these are valuable lessons to learn. And in my opinion, too many students constrain themselves too tightly, or like it's almost like how many of you have kids? Okay, feeding children is fucking annoying because like they're like, I don't like that. Like you had this for lunch yesterday and you loved it, and they're like, I don't like it now. And like, you're idiots. You don't know anything about the world. I'll tell you what's good and what's not good. And that's what it's like to watch y'all be overly selective of jobs. If you're like, quesadillas only, please. And it's like, hot dogs are good, cheeseburgers are good, what's wrong with you? Okay, maybe you're vegetarian, I don't know. I'm sure there are vegetarian foods that taste good. I've never had them. But there are so many options. Like most any job in programming is a good job for you to learn some things. Even if it gets to be 6 months out and you're like, you know what I learned? I fucking hate this job. I'm gonna go get a different one. Cool, welcome to the world of like extreme economic privilege where people want to give you jobs. Most of the world is like, oh my God, if I lost my job, I would be fucked, my family would be screwed, everything would be horrible. And you're like, I got this job, man, that job doesn't look that good. I'll need a quesadilla job. Once you have a year of experience, if you were going to draw the pie chart of technical jobs that are interested in you. Okay. When you graduate, your slice is like this. It's about 3 to 5% of jobs. And with a year of experience, that grows to something like 15-20% of jobs, and with 2 years experience it like doubles again, and then it's kind of up to you if you're actually good or not. And these slices, this is like, there are probably several hundred jobs who would like to hire you. Here there's like a couple thousand jobs that would like to hire you, and here there are many thousands of jobs for you. So to me, the error is to look for that quesadilla job. I'm gonna put that in the notes now. Quesadilla jobs. Plain white job with cheese on it. In the very first phase, because like your ability to be selective out of this small slice is limited. And anywhere you go and you're successfully employed for a year, it will open this chunk. And you stick it out a second year, it will open this chunk. It doesn't matter whether it's a startup or it's fucking FedEx or whatever it is. Like, and your goal now post graduating was a nice checkpoint. Your goal is to get to this part, right? Because once you have this open to you, now you have a career where, as long as you're not a gigantic asshole, like even if you're a moderate asshole, you'll still be okay. If you're a super asshole, this pie slice will shrink back up. People will eventually hear about you and be like, ooh, worked with her, no thanks. But, just kidding, it's never her. And this pie slice will at least stay there and will likely grow as you continue to grow your skills. Getting that 2 years of experience is everything. The other part that's frustrating, coming back to this idea of like overly picky eating, the other part that's frustrating when students are overly selective here is you don't appreciate that the people in the industry, they already have this or something along those lines, and they choose to be in this spot, right? It's not uncommon that I talk to students about a job and they're like, oh, I'm not, there's this play, I'm not that interested in that. Okay, I comprehend the words you're saying, and you understand that there are people who have that job, who work at that company, work in that city, work in that industry, who have 2, 4, 6, 8 years experience. They have thousands of jobs open to them. They've chosen that one. You have dozens of jobs, and you're like, nah. It seems like there's some asymmetry of information there, where what you see on the outside, you probably don't understand what's great about working there. And those are important questions to ask somebody. You know, somebody who's like we have like a kind of germinating conversation with McDonald's. And at first you're like, working at McDonald's, the fuck? And it's like, well, McDonald's probably has a tech team. It's several hundred people like building technology. And it's like, is that your dream job? Did you sign up day one like, McDonald's corporate, let's go? Probably not, right? But if there are several hundred people working there, there must be something interesting going on. And I doubt it's just like, oh, I built a React app for like some electronic menu thing. Like when you look at big companies, there's like a danger in the perceived experience of a consumer versus an employee. And like when you talk about McDonald's, you jump to like your consumer experience, which is irrelevant to the job experience, right? It is often the case that students who work at neat, small, interesting startups, you're like, oh man, we're building these features, it's like super cool. I just wish somebody used our software. And it's like, oh, you might want to start looking for that new job because this place is going down. When you're at a big, slow place, like a McDonald's, like a FedEx, it's like, if you write some software, it's probably going through millions of uses per day. And like, there's some things that are really cool about that. And that you might find out that like scale and efficiency is like really your jam. Or you might find out like, I hate it, I don't care, I want to build like really creative things that are experimental, and even if they run slow, like, I like it. That's cool. Those are some of the parts that you're going to discover over this year, 18 months and 24 months. And whichever one of those kinds of places you end up, you can still learn those lessons. So I want you to think about or consider that most every job is a pretty good job for you individually. It's not like this is a good job for somebody. Oh, so-and-so would like that job. It's like for you specifically, it's somewhere between a pretty good job and a fucking awesome job. Based on the jobs people take, there's only about a 1 in 4 chance that the job you sign an offer for was advertised. And so when you are reading job listings, it's not that job listings are completely worthless, but you're seeing about 25% of this small pie slice. It's also the 25% that everyone else is looking at. And I don't mean everybody else in here, because they're going to come out equipped with all these tools, insights, and they're going to be doing amazing stuff. They're going to probably leave you in the dust. No, just kidding. Everyone's going to do great. It's the 25% that folks from other programs like ours are looking at. It's the 25% that fucking college computer science kids who don't know shit about shit are looking at, right? The people who read 2 books about programming are like, I'm a professional software developer now. That's what they're looking at, right? So when you're looking at job listings, it's not a waste of time, but it's close. You're looking at the worst options. Junior jobs specifically are rarely advertised. If you're a company, say we'll start up in Boulder, 20 people, whatever. If you advertise a senior dev job, you're gonna see something like 6 to 24 applicants a week. If you advertise a junior level job, you're gonna see like 100 applicants a week. And not only is it bad for you from a competitive standpoint to be in a pool, I mean, obviously you're gonna be better than the other 99 people in that pool, but the chances of them finding out are real slim. Because somebody's like, oh, we should hire a junior person. Anybody know anybody? No, okay, like, let's put up a listing, and they get those 100 applicants, and they're like, whoa, fuck this. Like, I don't have all week to go through 100 applicants, just close it. This is too hard. If you've seen the documentary Office Space, there's a scene where the dude takes the stack of resumes. It's like this enormous stack of resumes. He goes, first, I don't hire unlucky people, and takes the top half and throws them in the garbage. You know? And like having done hiring for jobs that are widely applied like that, I will tell you it is not far from the truth, because it's like, I got these now 100 resumes I got to go through, and I'm looking to get rid of as many as I can. No. And it's like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, I'm trying to say no. That's a place where you easily eliminate yourself with stupid shit like typos. You will not believe, perhaps, please God, don't let it be you. Alums have sent out resumes with typo in the email address, and then they're like, no one emails me back. I'm gonna fucking kill you. Have someone else read it. You're all those things, especially like that friend who always has some critical commentary for you. For me, it's my mom, who's like, blah, 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 I'm gonna do it this way. And I'm like, I didn't ask you about that. Just look for typos. In tech, there's only 2 modes for a company. Either you're hiring or you're going out of business. There is no steady state in the middle. And a company hiring for any job, any single job, means that they are likely hiring for all the jobs. And you will hear, as I often do, there are many companies who will say, oh, we want to hire some junior people, we just need a couple more senior people. Cool, apply for that job anyway. Because their perception of what junior people are like is much lower than your actual ability to perform. Companies who have, like the more, how to describe it, the more defined the scale of like, oh, we have these there's 12 different levels of developer and so forth. And this is what the qualifications for this one, and this is what people at this level, they perform this way on this test or whatever. When companies have systems like that, graduates almost always end up like 3 or 4 notches from the bottom. When your actual skills are evaluated, is not that you're coming in like at the bottom, it's that you're a third of the way up the tree. The advantage there is that when you apply for a job that you're not qualified for, you have like some chance of getting it. One downside to understand with those is often companies don't have a different technical challenge for a senior level job versus a junior level job, and you'll get technical challenges that you're like, there's no way I can do this. And then you can have a little pity party for a few minutes and then just fucking do it, because it's not that hard, it's just programming. You will then be convinced to yourself, like, this is garbage, everything's garbage, they're gonna hate me, right? It might surprise you to know that of technical challenges, like in talking to hiring managers, HR people, tech people, technical challenges that are given out, only about 1 in 5 ever comes back. So if you just turn it in, you've beat out 4 out of 5 people. If it's actually good, you'll probably get the fucking job. So if a company is advertising or making some kind of noise about hiring for senior level people, they're probably hiring for junior people too, or they want to, or they plan to in the near future. Sometimes companies, I shouldn't say sometimes, it's actually pretty frequent, that companies are uncertain on timelines. This is particularly true of consulting, and I would say in the current like tech environment, it's probably a bad idea to look at consultancies. Everyone I talk to in consulting now, whether they're a small shop with 20 people or 2,000 consultants, everyone's having trouble with sales, and the first positions to go are junior positions. Right? So if consulting is like you think the thing you really want to do, I would say, cool, assume it's not going to work. Like, you need to approach the job hunt in like, I'm looking at some consultancies and also some product companies, because I heard the consulting's probably not going to work. To give you an example, a student took a job at a consultancy in January. That's one of the like largest consultancies in the world, like thousands of developers, hundreds of salespeople, and as of June, they had not yet been staffed on a project. Like, there wasn't work to do for 6 months, and that's a very bad place to be. Now, obviously, that place has a lot of like money in the bank. They can afford to keep someone on the bench that long. Most consultancies, it's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If we don't have work for you, like, we gotta let you go, just to stay afloat. So consulting is a rough spot right now. If you talk to a consultancy or are interested in consultancy, like the second question I would ask them is, tell me about your sales pipeline. And if the answer is like, oh, we get all our work, like our clients love us, and everything comes in through referral, it's like, that's really great to hear. What do you do when there aren't enough referrals? Because referral is an engine you can't put gas in. You can't be like, we want more past clients, right? It's like, if those referrals don't come fast enough, what do? You sit on your hands and then you go, oh shit, guess we need a different strategy. If you talk to a consultancy and they say like, oh, we have we have this sales team and they're like taking this approach, whatever the approach is, if they feel good about it, I'm like, sure, seems fine. A friend's consultancy, their whole gig is the two like co-founders. One of them gives a lot of conference talks, and then the other one like works the room after the talk. And so people are like, that talk was so great. And we're like, and the other one's like, yeah, it was great. Wouldn't you like to hire us? And people are like, yeah, matter of fact, we would. And they do awesome. Right? There's more than one generate for consultancy, but just referrals is not enough. You should be aware that jobs mean there's a job. A single listing doesn't mean there's a single job. It could be that there's 0 jobs, could be that there's 12 jobs. There's sometimes a feeling of like, oh, I applied for this job, the listing's still there 3 weeks later, maybe they're going to get back to me. Probably not. If they are going to get back to you, it's going to be within a week. If it goes longer than a week, it's unlikely that they ever get back to you. If they do, it's kind of a warning sign is a little bit harsh, because it's often not someone's job to hire people, especially in a smaller company. It's like, we're trying to build features. Oh yeah, every once in a while we got to do the hiring thing. But if it takes longer than a week to get back to you, I would. It's not that I would not talk to them. It's just I would go into it with a little bit of caution. Like, do they actually have the money to hire a position like this? Do they actually have a plan to hire? Many companies, like Ingrid would tell you with QuickLeft, she has job listings up, the same set of job listings up at all times, every day, every year. And it's just like, see what comes in. Like, if someone amazing shows up, well, we're gonna hire them. We're gonna find a way to fit them on the team. One of the, so let's say, if we say job listings are this like 25% of the already small slice, the job listing goes up when we've run out of options. When we don't know anybody in our network we want to hire, we haven't met anybody interesting through the rest of life, meetups, conferences, whatever, and it's like, let's see what's out there in the great wide open. I think of job listings as kind of like putting a personal ad on Craigslist. Like, it's it's not too offensive, it's like a deep level of like, I've exhausted all my options, and like, here's me, I think I'm cool, if you'd like to date me, send an email, right? That's where a job listing is. Maybe, like, you'll get some emails, they'll be fucking weirdos, right? So finding the jobs that aren't listed is where a big part of the hustle is. So coming back here, skill is about like knowing how to program. When you graduate, you know how to program. That's what graduating means. If you choose to throw it away, that's up to you. That seems like a real stupid thing. How you maintain it is through discipline. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. Hustle is about pushing into places where you're not sure you belong. And that's the part that the majority of people, whether it's people job hunting in general or job hunting coming out of training, this is the part that people are unwilling to do. And if you were to graph, I often think about student achievement in the program. If we talk about like technical achievement, I think of it in thirds as like the people who are, everyone knows they're like super sharp, every problem's easy for them, the rest of us kind of hate them, etc. Okay, those people, that skill, like the skill and the confidence of it like oozes out in the first interview they do. People are like, damn, you're sharp, get this job, have it, right? This third of people are like, I'm barely hanging on, I don't think I'll ever get a job, I gotta work my ass off at this thing. And these people do great, and these people do pretty damn good too. The danger's in here. The folks who have like done pretty well at things and like, yeah, I think like it's gonna be pretty much okay. And you're not notable enough to like dominate in an interview, and you're not scared enough to work your ass off. You're in this like middle road, and you end up back here. Okay. The thing that this person wins at skill, this person wins at hustle, and this person, like, it's questionable. You can try and ramp up your skill and say, hey, I'm gonna like learn an extra language. I'm gonna learn about Java or Go or .NET or whatever. And that can be a reasonable tactic. It's also a really good way to delay yourself. And it's super common, I hear from students where they're like, well, I'm not really applying for jobs like this week because I'm starting to learn some Python, and I built this thing for my mom's dog salon and da 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 da. And it's like, interesting, what if you got a job where they paid you money, and then in the evening you could build a dog salon software? You're like, oh, well, yeah, but, and it comes back, it's just, it sounds ridiculous, but it's the same phenomenon I see over and over. It's like, find a way to avoid the rejection, right? Find a way to, like, if I don't apply for jobs, I can't get rejected for jobs. And then I won't feel bad, but you end up feeling bad anyway. And now you also haven't applied for any jobs. It's real dumb. So going from here and like ramping your skill is possible and hard. It's a thing I think you should do to some degree, and we'll talk more tomorrow about like how to do that. But the part of ramping hustle is actually very easy. It's easy in terms of the hours invested. It's personally uncomfortable. It is a thing that some of you, like if you have a friend in your cohort or alum network that has ever done like sales or recruitment, they're annoying as shit about it, right? They're like, just talk to some people and just like get jobs. Like, I hate you so much, it's not so easy. And then the thing you're naturally gonna do is gonna be like, go off and do your thing. I'm just gonna do some stuff over here. And if you're real smart, you would be like, it's so easy for you. I wanna learn how to do what you do. Would you like pair with me on it? And they'll be like, the fuck? And you're like, yeah, pair on like writing some emails. And they'll be like, emails are so easy. It just goes like this. And done. And then you're like, oh my God, it was so easy. Oh shit. I'm like, why should things like pairing be only about programming? Your peers have a lot of knowledge and experience that you can tap into, and particularly like find the person. It's often the case that those folks have made it through the program, through life, on their hustle more than their skill. And so like, how can you tap into that in the same way that you've probably been willing to ask somebody for technical help all along the way? Some ways to execute the hustle. Oh man, the time's ticking down. Companies, it's dangerous for a company to not be able to hire when they want to. Every company wants hiring to be like a faucet that they can turn on and like get great people at any time. So some of the ways that you do that as a company is you need people to know about you. And you would be surprised that like even in our local market, there are probably companies that are familiar to you that senior developers have like never heard of. The average senior developer really doesn't tread out of their comfort zone very far. And so friends will be like, there's some weird, developers are like weird people. I'll have friends, people who have been mentors and stuff with like 10 years experience, and they'll be like, I think I kind of want to get a new job, but I'm not sure if anybody wants to hire me. I'm like, are you fucking insane? Like anyone will hire you. And they're like, I'm not sure. And I'll be like, give me the fucking resume. I'll get the job for you. Like just send it to the people, and then they're hired. And they're like, wow, I never even heard of that company. I'm like, how have you not heard of them? They're like hiring, they're everywhere. Companies try to put their name out there, not to gain customers, but to be on the hiring radar, right? So when you want to find places to apply to who are not advertising jobs, you should look at who's trying to put their name out. Some of the ways they do that are they sponsor shit. So if, yeah, like going to meetups is cool, way maybe in Denver, I pretty much wouldn't bother with any meetups, to be real about it. I think like meetups are super overhyped. Attending meetups. Sitting in the room, you're gonna talk to other Turing alums, eat some pizza and leave, right? And it's like, cool, I guess, like check the box that I went to a meetup. And the things you can do with a meetup that are actually valuable, like what a hustler does at a meetup, is they give a talk. You gotta be kidding me. I don't know anything. Guess what? No one else there knows anything either, especially in Denver. They're like half junior people. So you know more than like half the people in the room, and you can give a 5-minute lightning talk about like some shit. If you need ideas, I can generate like 100 ideas of lightning talks. And like so there are some softball things, like anything to do with like meta programming or references, like self-references, like this in JavaScript or self in Ruby. No one understands that shit. So it's like infinity lightning talks can be given about those topics. And giving a talk is incredibly valuable. Attending a talk, near zero value. You can watch a video. It's just not that great. But who sponsors those meetups is interesting. And who sponsors them now is one question. The work that most people are unwilling to do is to like dig below the surface, right? So if you look at, say you want to go to Nashville, like Nashville's a spot for you, okay? The things I would do is I would go on Meetup. Meetup has a ton, is like an archive, a treasure trove of information, right? I would find all the meetups I can that seem relevant to things I'm interested in. Like maybe that's JavaScript, maybe that's Ruby, but then things like React, entrepreneurship, like all the smaller the meetup, there's like the less likely someone else has dug into it before. And if you look at those, to look over the past 2 years, and for every meetup, who spoke and who sponsored it. The reason people speak, if they have a job, is because they're trying to hire people. The reason people sponsor is because they're trying to hire people. And if somebody spoke or sponsored 6 months ago and they're not speaking or sponsoring right now, that probably means they're about to hire somebody and get back in that cycle. And then boom, there you are, day one. They're like, wow, we already got this person. We don't need to bother with all that shit, just hire them. Are they good? I don't know, we'll see. But at least we don't have to go give a meetup talk. So digging into that data will give you ideas of like who's putting the effort into getting their name out, whether it's their personal name or their company name. You can also, those are great folks to, the people with experience who speak at things like meetups and regional conferences and so forth are what I call like community builders. They're people who are interested in like germinating community. And those are great folks to ask questions of. In the venture capital world that I generally hate, they have one good phrase, which is ask for money, you get advice, ask for advice, you get money. And the more people you ask for jobs, you're not gonna get any jobs. Fuck that, it's a waste of time. But when you ask for advice, then people are like, you know what? I have these jobs, would you like one? And so questions I would ask somebody were like, hey, say it's Nashville and it's like, I wanna relocate to Nashville, I went to college there and blah, blah, blah. And I saw you spoke at the React meetup like 6 months ago. If you were job hunting in Nashville, like are there 3 or 4 or 5 companies that like you'd be most interested in? And people are like, oh, yeah, like this place, look, my friend works there, let me introduce you. And when someone else introduces you, like a cold email, despite how much everyone hates it, including me, they're valuable. And a warm intro is like 10x valuable, right? The chance, if someone introduces you, even if they don't know you, the chance that you get interviewed for a potential job is like 1 in 2, 1 in 3, like very high for you. Relative to like applying for job listings, you're at like 1 in 20. So finding those community builders, reaching out to them, and just asking them. Different version I like of that question is like, I'm sure you're super happy at this company you're at. If that company shut down, where would you want to work? Or do like who do you think's doing the most interesting work in the region, and just all those kinds of like opinion questions. Developers are full of opinions, if you haven't noticed already, and they love to share them. And when you ask people questions about their opinions and like value what they say and do something about it, then they're like, I really like you. What was your name again? Like they don't, if you read like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's a lot about that kind of thing. Like people love to talk about themselves and share their opinions. And then if you want someone to like you, it's not about sharing your opinions and convincing them you're smart. It's about like consuming their stuff. And then they're like, you're great. Awards are like kind of a dark, not secret that the way you win awards as a company is by applying for them. And when you look at things like Denver Business Journal, organizations like that, or 5280 or whatever, like every town has these same kinds of things, whether they're industry things like DBJ, Denver Business Journal, which I didn't know anyone read until I was in there one time. And somebody was like, I read about you. And I was like, really? I thought that was just like what people put in their bird cage. But the way you get awards like that is you apply for them. How do you apply for them? Well, it's because like you give a shit because you have a PR person or something like that, and they're on the company's behalf, like nominating the company for all these things, best places to work, top tech companies, and so, whatever. So getting those awards, it's like it's nauseating, to be honest. Like going to these awards luncheons, you pay like $2,000 for the table, and then you sit and like clap for some people, and the food's not that good. And, it's dumb. But you get into that situation because the company wants to be known. And so looking at sources like that for maybe the past 3 years, right? Who are all the nominees for these different categories? It doesn't really matter what the category is. This is a good roadmap of companies who are trying to hire. If they're there every year, they're probably trying to hire every year. If they popped up once, then like double check that they're still in business. You can find those sources in every town. Applying to jobs@company.com is like a nice to have. You're unlikely to get a job from doing that, but it is a necessary step if you're going another way. So to make it more concrete, like I'm sure you've heard like 10 million times, like, oh, so-and-so got a job from, like, they got coffee with this person and then boom, they had a job. There's like a couple middle steps in there. And one of them is that a company who's organized enough to have like a software tool that organizes candidates, they need you to be a row in that table. And when you have the friend or person you met or whatever who wants to refer you, if they go to HR and they're like, hey, my friend is this person I met, I love them, they're great, they're gonna be applying, can you keep an eye out for them? The HR person's gonna go, oh yeah, sure. It's gone, okay? What you need is that when that recommendation comes in, that it's, they applied, can you give them a like +1 to interview? And then the HR person needs to be able to go to their system thing, whatever the system is, find your thing, be like, change your status to pending interview. And then you'll actually get the value. So when you have conversations with people, when you reach out to people, you need to go through the traditional path also. You need to fill out whatever their forms are, whatever their systems are to apply. And it's ideal to do it first, or at least early in the conversation, because you don't want them to go through the effort of the recommendation and it disappear. You should understand that job listings, when you read a job description, whether it's a junior or senior job, like where they come from. So I think of this sometimes as like, I hope you've seen the old like Schoolhouse Rocks about like how bill becomes a law. And it's like, how's a job listing born? There are developers doing work. And then there are product people who are like, we need more products, features, and shit. And developers are like, oh, I'm working so hard, man, I can't do anymore. We need more of me. And then product people are like, that's not my problem. HR, get more of these people. And then HR comes in and is like, developers, how do we find more of you? And they're like, well, here's the technologies I'm using today. Blech. Like this tech, this tech, this tech, this tech. And, you know, I've been doing it for a while. Probably someone needs like 5 years experience. And then HR's like, okay, I don't know what any of these words need. I put them on a bullet list. I'm looking for these people, right? And no one, like developers don't understand what it takes for them to be successful at their jobs. And so that's what they tend to resort to, is like a list of technologies and some ambiguous period of time, neither of which is particularly interesting. If you were to ask any developer, like, oh, today you're hiring people for React, what's your confidence that 3 years from now the team's going to be doing React? They'd be like, ooh, like 10%. Like, well, I'd like to still be on the team in 3 years. How relevant is if like, I don't know React today, or I'm an expert in React today, then does that mean I'm going to be 90% likely to be irrelevant in 3 years? And they're going to be like, that's an interesting question. Those lists are wish lists. They're not expectations. And particularly, there's like all the behavioral science. Oh shit, it's time. All the behavioral science shows over and over that like men are likely to apply for a job when they meet like 30% of the qualifications, and women it's like 96% of the qualifications. So for the women out there, just apply for some jobs. Consider if you really want to be in this space, some strategies to do that are apply for jobs that other people are not that into. And some easy ways to do that are like less sexy technologies like .NET and Java. The easier way, if I have to choose between like a less ideal tech and a less ideal place, I'm gonna pick a less ideal place. And one of the easiest ways to be in this spot is to say like, Orlando, sure, 2 years I can do Orlando. Dallas, Memphis. There's a company in north of LA called Procore, and they're like, yeah, our biggest problem is people don't want to move here. And I'm like, idiots. It's on the beach. Like the office is literally on the beach. People take a break and go surf. What the fuck? Like what better way could you spend like your 20s if that's you? But being willing to step into a niche, an opportunity where other people are like, meh, maybe. If you like go hard on it, then you're very likely to push into that spot. I got a lot of other things, but I'll pick up more tomorrow. So let these people have their classroom. Have a good day. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Yep.